Swinging a ground ball, stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first, and the Boston Red Sox are the world champions for the first time in 86 years.
Together they have, and together they stand alone on top of the mountain for now. And once again, the Boston Celtics stand alone for all time. It is banner 18.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
And a title for the Patriots!
I can't believe it!
They have completed the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
Good morning, listeners. Welcome into episode 57 of a New Era podcast. My name is Hanson, better known as Fryddy Online, and I am joined here by my co-host and dad, the OG Frid. Dad, would you like to say hello to the listeners on this Super Bowl week Monday? We are finally here.
We are here. Good morning. We're back to morning. Monday morning broadcast here. Yeah. Hey, newbies. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, hope you had a good weekend, and a weekend it was for sports. Almost so much so that we almost recorded this podcast early yesterday, just because of all of the crazy shit that was happening. But thank God we didn't, because there was more that ended up going on.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it all here. So, first, that, like I mentioned in last week's episode, I said we're going to do a whole Super Bowl thing here. So not as much Boston stuff for the Boston sports fans on this one, but we do want to briefly touch on the two teams that are still playing this week, and that would be the Celtics and the Bruins. We'll start off with the Bruins here, as the Celtics are a little easier to talk about. We did say on Friday's episode, the only game that we had to look forward to really for the rest of that was the Rangers game. Said it was a must win, and that is exactly what the Bruins ended up doing on Saturday. A 6-3 win against the Rangers, really dominant showing at home. And I mean, you say this every week: when the Bruins win, they win. When the Bruins lose, oh, you'll know early. This game on Saturday, we knew pretty early that they were not going to let this one slip out of their hands.
No, Jeremy looked great. Was watching it with your mom. Mom has always loved Tuukka Rask. She thought he's, one of the best goalies the Bruins have ever had in their organization. She said Jeremy, though, was really good. I said, yeah, he looked a lot better. He's seeing the puck more. I think he's understanding our defensive lineups and what they do. And what I mean by what they do. So last night I was watching the Utah Hockey Club versus who the hell were they playing last night?
I don't know. I was watching the Grammys.
But it was just the way that even defensively, how both teams,
St. Louis,
yeah, how both teams just either was the rink, and yet I think Utah's rink, I know there's the standard, but I think it's a tad bit smaller based on the arena size and when they had to throw it in. But it just seemed that there was so much more open ice. Everyone was skating. Defensively, they looked to make the pass, get rid of the puck. All of our defensive guys just seemed to just knock it off a board and allow our forwards to try and bring it up the ice, minus Charlie and Mason. That was just one thing that I just keep on harping. I know it just, I just don't understand how our defensive guys just don't want to bring the puck up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was able to watch a little of this Rangers game because it was on the TV as I went out to get ready for the Duke Carolina game. We'll touch on that very briefly in a little bit too. But from what I saw, got in there when it was already 3-1. I think we were, a little bit into the second period. And looked away. I swear to God, I looked away for like 1 second, go back up. It's 4-1. So it was nice to be able to almost take a seat, really, and just kind of watch and let this team do their work against a Rangers team that's been kind of streaking lately. Did lose that one, but then they bounced back to beat Vegas, I think, last night. So like we deemed it, must win. They got the win. Now you've got the Wild tomorrow night, still at home. You've got the Rangers again on Wednesday, this one in New York. And then Vegas next Saturday. Those are the last 3 games before we get to the All-Star break. So hopefully they can, use this Rangers game as, momentum builder, a momentum shifter potentially. Go through this week, even if it's a 2-1 week, something like that. Kind of get your feet settled again. Take a little bit of the time that they need, get healthy, get their mind straight, and then come back out of the All-Star break, and you got a game against the Ducks, and then you got a game against Maple Leafs. So it'll be a nice little tune-up game, and then we got one that really matters again. So it'll be exciting to see, hopefully, that this team turns it around after the All-Star break and gives us something other than what we've been seeing out of them, where we've kind of like lost hope of them not trying to make the playoffs or anything, but lost hope of them potentially being able to win a series and turn into a Stanley Cup winning caliber team on the back end of this year.
Well, one thing that I don't think is going to stop no matter what, nobody can stop Pasta. He is by far the hottest player in January in the last 7 games in the NHL, and he's not playing in this All-Star.
Yeah, I know. Weird.
Yeah. Somebody who definitely would be. So he's going to have enough time to rest. Him and Zaka, I hope they go out and play some good golf. I know Pasta loves his golf. So
And not only just the time to rest, but he's starting to hit his stride here of what Pasta does. You got to think maybe this puts a chip on his shoulder too.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Because even he's the type of player that a chip on his shoulder can rejuvenate the whole offense in the second half too. If he continues to have hat trick games against teams like that, in games like he did on Saturday. So I'm excited to see it. Something to look forward to a little bit more in the Bruins season, as we've been on and off for the last couple, months now with just the inconsistencies. But you see games like that, and it hopes to have us going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say we're going to go 2-0-1 this week.
That's fair. Yeah, I said 2-1. It could be an overtime loss. Not sure who it would be against. Maybe the Rangers or the Knights, or the Wild. Honestly, the Wild are a great team. They've been quietly a great team on that West Side throughout the year so far. So we'll see.
One cool thing though, being this Bruins team that has been not, at the top of their game during the regular season as they have these last couple of years. But again, Saturday at 3:30, that's the ABC hockey game. 2 weeks in a row, you get the ABC game of the week at 3:30.
They love putting the Bruins on that Saturday matinee. It's great. Yep. All right, switch over to the Celtics here really quickly, Dad. Pretty good week for the Celtics. We went over the Pelicans, we went over the Bulls when Pelicans played later on after we recorded our episode. They ended up winning that one 118-11, and then yesterday had the largest comeback in Celtics history since Joe Mazzulla has been the coach, down 26 points at one time. It was looking bad, and then proceeded to end the game, get this, on a 41-10 run to come back and win this game. Won the fourth quarter 38-16. 15 of Tatum's 35 came in the fourth quarter there, as he put up a phenomenal game, 35, 7, and 11. And as Joel Embiid has said in the past, this is not a rivalry. They always kick our ass. Well, they were looking to kick our ass here, and it still couldn't happen. We pull out the win against the 76ers. This game, I was seeing a bunch of talk during the game on Celtics Twitter saying, "Oh, look, another Celtics game that's, boring. You shouldn't watch it. Blah blah blah. Wow, they blew this one." And everybody was talking a little too early, and then it was funny to see all of those hot takes, I guess you could say, halfway through the game, just get spoiled because of the comeback. They go and pull that one out, and after a decently, comparatively bad week by the Knicks, we are now 2.5 games up in that second seed over them, whereas when we recorded on Friday, I think it was 1 game. So we're getting some space there, and now only 5.5 behind the Cavs. While that does seem like, kind of a big lead, we've seen it larger throughout the year. So I've been saying, the Cavs are going to come back down to earth eventually. I mean, 40-9 is not, maintainable throughout the whole year. I would think, at least for them. And we're kind of seeing that happen. And we've got them next on the schedule tomorrow, along with the Mavericks on Thursday and the Knicks on Saturday. Dad, give me a quick little thing about if you saw this game against the 76ers, what you thought, and then we'll talk about what everybody's talking about in the NBA here.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch this, but watched looked at the box score before we were getting on this morning, and very pleased that we won both the third and dominated the fourth, which is something that we have not seen on a consistent basis. Even when we win, we've lost that fourth quarter, and we kicked their ass. Very happy with that.
And being able to come back from that deficit, that's something that gave me a little bit more confidence from this team that's lost some of the closer ones this year, and we've talked about it. That is a game. Now, granted, the 76ers are not a playoff caliber team and not the teams that you're going to be seeing in the playoffs, but to be able to mount that comeback started to give me hope that, all right, they know we're getting a little later in the season. They know that we're getting to the All-Star break. This is when you got to start to turn it on,
Yeah.
And get those comebacks and get those wins and have that confidence in yourself that once you get down to the playoffs in those games, if you're going to need to mount these comebacks, you need to know that you're able to. And I think this was a good step in that direction, to try to give life to the Celtics team that we saw not only just all throughout last year, but towards the end of last year in the playoff run. If they play like they did, hopefully they don't get down 26 again, but we know that now they can do it. They have it in their bag. Tatum went and just took over like the superstar he is, and that is encouraging to see. And hopefully they, continue along this path and bring this sort of energy right after the All-Star break, after we get through this week, or the next 2 weeks, that is.
Yeah, and especially, again, the Pelicans, a 2-point win, a last-second bucket by Jason to win the game, and then the 76ers, you mentioned, teams that aren't to our capability, not going to be playoff contenders, and we've seen us play down to the level of competition we're playing against. And you could kind of say, yes, we did it again, but we pulled out a win and we had a comeback. So those last 2 games showed extreme promise, especially going into tomorrow night's game against the leader in the Atlantic.
Yep. So let's look ahead at this week here, Dad. We got Celtics Cavs tomorrow. Hoping we take that one. And I think they know they need to take that one before the break here, just to try to get a little bit closer in these standings. And then Thursday, what we thought was going to be another rendition of, the the NBA Finals rematch again. The Mavericks are looking a little different. And that is obviously because of the trade that shocked the world Saturday night, coming out at around 12:30 a.m. on Saturday night, Sunday morning. And that was Luka Doncic being traded to the Lakers. I honestly thought this was a joke. I thought that Sham's account was hacked, as did everybody else on NBA Twitter. And then tweeted it out about 10 minutes later, and he was like, no, this is real. And I think everybody kind of just sat and just wondered what the hell happened to make Luka Doncic, the superstar in Dallas, get traded for chips to the Los Angeles Lakers. That is, of course, I've got the whole trade right here. Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to the Lakers. Dallas acquired Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. The Jazz happened to be in this trade as well, getting Jalen Hood-Schifino, the LA Clippers 2025 second-round pick, and the Mavs 2025 second-round pick. Thought this was funny because I saw a tweet about it that said, could you imagine being the Jazz and you get the call saying that you're the third team in a trade, and they're like, wait, what fucking trade? Like Luka Doncic getting traded? We're involved in this. This one was crazy. I did not know how to react to this trade. My first instinct was, wow, it has never been so evident that the NBA is setting up for a Celtics Lakers finals at the end of the year. And what a perfect opportunity for the Celtics to go and try to get banner 19, or the Lakers to try to tie us back up again at 18. I'm not sure if that was your thought, but give me your initial reactions to waking up to seeing this news, and what do you think it means for the NBA going on the rest of the season?
All right. This is going to be a take that all you guys think that, oh, here's an old man that doesn't know ball. I almost think Utah is the one that wins out on this. And this is the reason behind it. How the hell is Luka and LeBron going to work together? Both of them are big-bodied power forwards who want to bring the ball up, who want the offense to run through them. Neither one, I mean, yes, LeBron could play off the ball a little bit. I don't think Luka really could. I mean, Kyrie could. Kyrie was probably more of a shooting guard than a point guard.
When he needed to.
He always has. So Luka, so he could say, yeah, Luka, bring it up. Let me just run around, whatever. I mean, I just do not see this. Now, reading more and more, yes, this gets the Lakers a lot younger and ready for the post-LeBron time when he retires. Does that mean he's getting closer to retirement? I doubt it. I don't think he'll retire this year. He's going to keep on trying to play. I just don't see... I don't see them working together at all. And then on the Dallas side, you get Anthony Davis, a guy who injury prone, and you already have Derek Lively the second, Dwight Powell. Now you got three guys that are almost the same. I mean, athletic, big men.
Rim protectors.
Just another. I think more or less it was both teams going, we have to scrap these problem children in our lives.
I think that was it too. Saw a lot of people saying,
and you have to do it because of salary.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying that Dallas must have known that Luka was not going to re-sign there, so might as well get something for him. But if you're trying to get something for Luka, I don't know why you go with a 31-year-old power forward and only one first-round pick that doesn't become anything until 2029. Mm-hmm. Yes, you probably look to get one in 2029 because that's when LeBron will be gone, and it's going to be the post-LeBron era in LA. But now you've got the face of the Lakers past LeBron now, and that'll be Luka. I find it so much funnier too. I know Dallas was saying they wanted to shore up their defense a little bit. The lack of effort defensively by Luka, it was very evident in the final series that we watched last year too. but even throughout the regular season. So yeah, you go and get, a guy in Anthony Davis that could help you a little bit more defensively, but like you're saying, there's sort of a logjam down there. I feel like if you were trying to help the defense, probably should have done that by looking for somebody in the guards rather than Anthony Davis there. I don't know how this really benefits y'all. Speaking of which, I mean, they got like 91 on their head by halftime yesterday against the Cavs. So good job on defense right there, Dallas. And then defensively too for the Lakers, this is horrible for them. It's going to be so funny.
Rim protector, yeah,
it's going to be so funny to see once we play them. I think now the Lakers' idea is, and probably because they haven't been where they wanted to be defensively so far this year, anyways. I think their idea now is, well, we're not going to slow down these teams, so let's just try to fucking outscore them. And that's going to be their MO, which I think if you come down to the playoffs and if we do see them in June in the finals against a team like the Celtics that can really lock in defensively, is going to be trouble for them. In terms of just how these like moves fit for the teams, I don't know if this makes either of them any better in the short term. For the Lakers, it probably makes them better in the long term, or at least something to look forward to there. But like I said, I think makes it that much more evident they're looking for a Celtics-Lakers final this year. But that is if this new look Lakers team is able to even make it through the Western Conference.
But again, you just said, if they can make it through the conference. I mean, you just probably helped Houston, Minnesota, and Oakland a lot more by getting rid of Luka off of Dallas and Anthony Davis away from LA. You thought you were helping out your teams, but I think you actually regressed. Is going to cause a lot more problems, and especially now they have to learn to each of these guys who are. I mean, Anthony's still injured. Luka is as well. I mean, at what point do they end up coming back? Most likely after the All-Star break. And now you have to learn how to play with one another, which is going to probably take 2 weeks. Now you're into March and you got to make a run for the playoffs?
Yeah. Also to keep in mind, after the All-Star break, I think it's February 25th, going to be must-watch TV. We're going to have the Lakers and Mavericks facing off against each other. So it'll certainly be interesting to see if Luka pushes himself to get back for that game. But yeah, just crazy stuff. One of the crazier trades we've seen, not even just in the NBA, but in sports history in quite a while. And just going to be, I guess, excited to see how it plays out. Thank God we're in the East, you know. We don't necessarily have to worry about this. I mean, Joe Mazzulla, I think, said it the best in his presser. I believe it was yesterday. He sat down. First thing he goes is, don't ask me about the trades. I really don't care. So I found that pretty funny. That was so on brand for Joe Mazzulla. But yeah, we had to touch on it as it was the biggest news that came out of this weekend. And yeah, you got anything else about the Celtics here, Dad? Or are we ready to get into our Super Bowl talk?
Yeah. I again, quickly about the Celtics. I saw some potential trade rumors going because I think obviously there was another trade last night with De'Aaron Fox.
Going to the Spurs.
So obviously teams are loading up right now. I think this will be a trade heavy. It's Thursday at 3:00. We need to make a move. I saw Gershon
Yabusele.
Yeah, potentially coming back. I still, even though it's a lot we have to give up, I still like this Walker Kessler kid.
I know. I was just about to say, I'm really hoping if we see anything out of the Celtics, it is that Walker Kessler move that we introduced to the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I think it just makes so much sense.
And now Utah already made one.
He's got Celtic written all over him.
Oh,
yeah, might as well. All right. Oh, before we get into the Super Bowl, did say we touch on it. Go Duke, the better blue. Absolutely beat the fuck out of those Tar Heels on Saturday night. It was a great time, great watch. They looked phenomenal. I think it was 40 to 15 at some point in the first half. Cooper Flag did Cooper Flag things. Defensively, the Blue Devils just absolutely locked up Carolina. I mean, everybody knew going into this game, it didn't hold the same weight, but the Tar Heels were not ever really going to be in this game. Some people hoped because of the rivalry and because of everything that transpires beforehand, that it would keep the game closer, but Duke wasn't playing with their food, and just looked phenomenal. Jay Billis said it best after the game, that this Duke team can and will beat anybody in the nation. Yes, there are probably teams that can still beat them, but it's a very select few. It's going to make for an interesting rematch once we see both these teams again, I think on March 8th, the end of the regular season. But yeah, this was a great watch. I think I was one of 4 Duke fans in the sports bar that we watched it at, so I was definitely outnumbered in enemy territory, but it was still a fun watch and a great game for the rivalry, at least on this side of it.
Cooper Flag and that Knuppel. Those guys can play and really seem to like each other.
Oh yeah. No, John did a great job at piecing together this roster, I think, this year specifically. Bringing in a couple returning players with, Tyrese and getting in Zion James and stuff like that. But then building the freshman recruiting class around that to fill out the holes. And it doesn't hurt when you have the best prospect and the best college basketball player we've seen and arguably some time on that roster as well.
Do you think Kahn, if he continues to average 17 to 20 points with, 5 rebounds, couple assists, does he decide to go into the draft?
Oh yeah, he's gone. No, he's not staying. I think the only freshman that really has a chance of staying is Tyreke Evans, who had a bit of a run coming off the bench a couple weeks ago. I don't think saw many minutes on Saturday, but John knows when to put him in. I think he'll probably be the only one that ends up staying. But Kahn and Cooper as good as gone already. I was saying this during the game on Saturday. If they had the ability to just declare preseason before they even played a game, these kids would have. But ultimately we'll wait until after the year when we hear the inevitable decision out of both of them. And I think it's very evident, too, that Kahn will be going because of how well he fits into this Duke team and how well they've looked. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a lottery pick as well. Maybe not top 10, but 10 to 14 is probably my guess. All right. So I think it's time, Dad. I think it is time for our Super Bowl predictions or our Super Bowl talk. We've got about an hour here, and we will spend all of it on the Super Bowl. We've got a couple fun segments here that we're going to go through. And first one, Dad, we're going to go with a position versus position breakdown on both teams. See this a lot on TikTok and stuff. They were doing this throughout the playoffs, throughout the divisional and the conference championships to see which team on paper looks the best. So I've got a bunch of positions here. Some of them I group together. Some of them I just have individual players, and we'll go through here. And I just want you to give me, and I'll do it too with you, but we'll say which team has the edge at that position. And then at the end, we'll tally them all up, and I'll tell you who we give the matchup edge to on paper, that is. So we will start out here at the top on offense. The big one, I think we know this is going Kansas City's way, but we'll go quarterback, Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts.
Oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts obviously fits the Philly system, but take Jalen and put him in Arizona. No. Well, yeah, Arizona. Or put him in Seattle. I don't think he can do what he's doing with those teams. You put Patrick any place, and he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. I don't really think this one needed too much of an explanation. We know it's Mahomes over Hurts. I mean, he's the best quarterback in the league. He's the best player in the league up until he isn't. And so that one's an easy start, 1-0 for the Chiefs, but I don't know if it's going to look that great going down the rest of this roster. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt here on the running back position. We're going to go Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. You have both of them, or Saquon Barkley. And ultimately, I think we both know it's going towards the 2,000-yard rusher and Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the league this year, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. It was fortunate that Kansas City was able to bring back Kareem, and he did what he was able to do midway through the year. Obviously helped me out fantasy football wise. I'm glad I was able to pick him up. Unfortunately, Pacheco had that bad leg injury. Even if he was healthy the full year, he's not yet, and nor do I think he ever will be. Obviously a very surprising running back, runs with power, can catch the ball, I think, better than Saquon, but yet rushing wise, Saquon hands above both those guys.
Even at their peaks, you get peak Isaiah Pacheco and peak Kareem Hunt. I still don't think you're even scratching the surface of getting up to how just dynamic and good Saquon Barkley is. So that's going to tie us up here early 1-1. We'll go to wide receiver 1. And by the way, I just took these based off of what I saw on the depth charts. So if anybody's like, oh, they're not your guy, go yell at ESPN depth charts for this one. We'll go AJ Brown or Xavier Worthy.
AJ.
Yeah, that one's pretty easily AJ as well. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think, or a week ago when we did some like wide receiver trade targets that we could potentially be looking at for the Patriots. I mentioned AJ Brown as the top 5 receiver in this league, and I still believe that. While Xavier has been, dynamic this year and come into his own with that speed that, like we said, does transfer from college to the NFL game. There's still a huge gap between AJ Brown and Xavier Worthy right now. And at the end of the day, too, when it comes down to your wide receiver 1, I personally have always just liked more of that big-bodied receiver, that go up and get it guy, rather than a Xavier Worthy who you're depending on getting behind your back line and making big plays that way. So one's pretty easily AJ Brown to me, I think.
Now, you could take Xavier Worthy and Devontae Smith equal with speed, but yet
I think Xavier Worthy's still faster.
Yeah. And yet I think he could probably, hopefully learn to catch the downfield ball a little bit better than Smith at this point, but he's got a year or 2 years on him right now. But if you're going Worthy and AJ Brown, yeah, hands down AJ Brown.
And then talking about Devontae Smith, we move on to the wide receiver 2 position. We've got Devontae Smith and Hollywood Brown. This one might be a little closer. Personally, me though, I'm still taking Devontae here, Dad, but what about you?
If Hollywood, and that's one of the things I have coming up with some of my keys. Hollywood needs to get back to where he was. Hopefully he's more healthier. But yeah, at this moment, I'll take Devontae.
Yep. All right. So now moving on to the last weapon on offense, we've got the tight end position. Dallas Goedert or Travis Kelce. While Dallas Goedert has been great for the Eagles this year, and Travis Kelce seemingly these last 2 years has kind of been slipping away, getting towards the end of his career. It's still Travis Kelce until further notice, probably until he retires. He's still the best tight end in the league. Still not as great as Gronk, but he's definitely the preferred tight end between these two. And I'm going to give this one to Kansas City.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore. Just the guy knows how to read. I think Dallas is in the mold of Travis and in how he, can find the open spaces in the middle of the field.
Be that safety blanket.
Yep. And I think potentially, no, I'll take that back, because even when both do catch, I think both are explosive enough to carry the ball and get you those extra yards. One of the things that I did wrote down, Dallas Goedert does have the second longest receiving yard on the Eagles this past year, second only to A.J. Brown.
Okay. You're a stats guy today. Good stuff. All right. So we've got it 3-2 Philly so far. This one's interesting. I'm not sure if we'll differ here, but I did take O-lines as a whole. We're not going to go through position by position. O-lines as a whole, you're starting 5 there. What do you think? Where do you think this goes? Is it Kansas City or is it Philadelphia? Arguably, these are 2 of the best O-lines in the league. But I want to see what you say about this.
No, I mean, I think by moving Joe Thuney out to that left tackle, which I know when he was in New England, he did for us as well. I think definitely helped that out. I mean, obviously, 2 great left tackles not going against each other, but helping your quarterbacks on their blind spot. But I think I'll go Kansas City.
Interesting. Okay, because I was going to go Philly here. I think that Philly is the best offensive line in the league this year. Just 1 through 5 just have absolute weapons out there. I mean, Landon Dickerson, who was able to fill in there at the center spot. You got Jordan Mailata, who has arguably been the best left tackle in the league this year. I think he was an All-Pro for the Eagles as well. I think the closest position battle on this O-line would be the center.
Yep.
And that's going to be if Cam Jurgens is able to play. Again, I know he came in and played the second half as Landon Dickerson sat out for the Eagles in the NFC Championship. But you're going up against, not going up against, but in terms of this matchup, Creed Humphrey, who I personally believe is the best center in the league. This one's very tight, but ultimately, we can give it to Kansas City if you want to go that way, ultimately, because I think a lot of these other positions are going to go in the Eagles' way anyway, so why not keep this a little close? We'll give it to Kansas City, but that's the first one we were split on. Next one, same thing. I just did D-line as a whole here. Both of them have a lot of dynamic players, a lot of dynamic edge rushers. I'm interested to see where you go on this one. I think this could be a toss-up either way, but where are you leaning?
I'm leaning with the Eagles defensive line only because of the 2 J's. I mean, those guys can be absolutely disruptive. Yes, Jalen Carter and Jones in terms of being disruptive, but I just think that Jordan Davis is that outlier that helps them. Sure, I think Kansas City has better edges, but when you have Davis and Carter in the middle, yeah,
I know. Like Chris Jones is probably the best player out of these 2 position groups, but in terms of as a whole, when you look at the interior defensive linemen of the Eagles, it has proved to be why they have been so dominant against the run this year and right down there in the middle. I also was going to give it to Philly. I think this one was close just because of, like you said, the two J's there and Jalen Carter and Chris Jones. But ultimately, in terms of depth as a whole, if we were to go position by position, you might see it go Kansas City's way. But as a whole of the D lines, we're going to give this one to Philly. All right, moving up to the second line of defense. We've got the linebackers. These ones I do have broken out. So we've got linebacker 1 in probably the tightest position battle that we'll see throughout this whole list. 2 great linebackers. You've got Nick Bolton for the Chiefs, and you've got Zach Bond, a DPOY candidate for the Eagles, who has had a massive year, massive resurgence since coming over from New Orleans, and has proved to be one of, if not the best linebackers in the league this year.
And just by pulling up, just read that Zach Bond is, do they have him questionable right now with an injury?
He'll probably be fine.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to miss that game, obviously. But
no, I don't think he'll miss the game. But still, if you did not participate and you have some type of injury, and especially both teams, and this is something else that I wrote down about keys to victory for both.
Well, don't get too big into them. Yeah, we'll move on to that.
Yeah, if you look at both groups, they don't have depth at all.
Mm-hmm.
So one injury to somebody could cause great havoc on both these teams. But I like Kansas City's overall, their 3 better as a positional group. And yet I love how Nick Bolton just is that spy guy. Especially I think he will spy Jalen. I'm going to take it to Nick over Zach.
Interesting. I was going to give it to Zach, just in terms of this year. However, we'll give Kansas City their flowers, I guess, where they need to here. In terms of overall, like, your whole body of work, this is the first year that we've seen Zach Bond break out and do this. While he has been the top linebacker in the league this year, we've seen Nick Bolton do it for a couple of years. So sure, if you want to give this one to Kansas City, we can. I think that's tough. And also one of the reasons I think Zach can do what he has been able to do this year is because of we just mentioned a minute ago, your interior defense. He doesn't have to worry about any runs coming up the middle to stop. He can rush the passer because you already got 3 monsters in the middle that's going to stop the run. Yeah.
While Nick has to play a little different. So,
okay, we'll give it to Nick. That one, let it be known. I think I'm still sticking Bond on that one, but we'll give you like the final say here, because I think I went through these and I had it terribly in the Phillies' favor. So I think we'll pick up yours here, so these stay a little bit close for the sake of the segment. Linebacker 2, we got Drew Tranquil versus Oren Burks. This is the one that I was undoubtedly going to give to Kansas City in terms of linebacker. I think Drew Tranquil on any other team is a great linebacker 1, but just because of the fact that you've got him up there with Nick Bolton, it allows him to kind of be your linebacker 2. Do you disagree with me here? Or are we going to go
No.
Drew?
Go Drew.
Okay. So far, actually, I'll keep the final tally to the end for you, but I can see them. All right, we move on to the cornerbacks. This one is kind of, I've got 2 cornerbacks. It's kind of going to go the same how I thought the linebackers were going to go. One where I undoubtedly have it in Philly's favor, and one that could be a little closer. For cornerback 1, we're looking at Trent McDuffie versus Darius Slay here.
Philly.
You're going Philly?
Yeah.
See, I was going to go Trent here. I think Trent McDuffie is one of the better cornerbacks in the league. And while Darius Slay is a great corner, he's a little bit older, but he's aging like fine wine here. And has played an unbelievable year. I'd be fine giving this one to Philly. I think this was very much so a toss-up. And while I do think McDuffie might be the more talented player, I think come Sunday, once we actually see these matchups take place, and if McDuffie is going to do his best to shadow A.J. Brown, if that's going to be the game plan, I don't think that's going to work too well. We'll get into that a little bit more in my keys of victory, but we can give this one to Philly and Darius Slay there. Cornerback 2, we've got Jalen Watson versus Quinyon Mitchell. This is the one that I think undoubtedly goes in the Eagles' favor. Quinyon Mitchell has been an unbelievable, probably a defensive rookie of the year candidate. They've got a couple of them back there for the Eagles, but yeah, he's been phenomenal. He could have easily been the cornerback 1 here. I did go and consult Dino on who would be the cornerback 1 and cornerback 2 in this situation, but Quinyon could be an easy cornerback 1 on any other team in the league. Has been unbelievably shut down, and Jalen Watson just does not match up well against him here.
No, I agree too.
All right. We're getting towards the end of this. We've got 3 more position groups to go, Dad. Free safety. We got Brian Cook for the Chiefs, and we got Reed Blankenship for the Eagles.
I really have always liked Reed. Just the way he can play in the back, that free safety. But got a little key to victory too. But I'm going to take Reed.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Reed here. I think as a whole, the Eagles may have the best safety pairing in the league between the free safety and the strong safety here. But Reed has been phenomenal this year. He was decent last year too in spurts, but I think he definitely took a step up this year and has helped to make that secondary just as scary as it is. So we're going to go Reed here for the free safety position. Strong safety, we've got Justin Reed for the Chiefs, and we've got C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the Eagles.
I'm going to go as well to the Eagles.
Yep, I also will. Just said it, but best safety pairing in the league. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has been an absolute dog, and while he can be a bit annoying for other teams throughout some games, and don't get me wrong, Justin Reed, out of their 2 safeties for the Chiefs, is the better of the 2. This would be the closer battle in terms of who is the better safety, but ultimately I still think at the end of the day it's C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then that brings us to our last one, the kicker position. We got Harrison Butker versus Jake Elliott. Dad, what do you think about this one?
Both have been streaky, injured, but I think I'm going to take Harrison only because he's seemed to be able to kick in this particular game a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was, going to go Harrison anyways here, but hasn't been as great as he's been on the previous Chiefs runs. Both of these kickers have had their fair share of struggles this year. And I saw a stat that I did not write down, but both of them have been having extreme trouble for 50-plus yard kicks this year so far. I think Harrison Butker's like 0-6, and I think Jake Elliott's like 1-8 or something like that. So this game could come down to a long field goal, and that could be big for either side there. But I don't know. Harrison Butker isn't what he was. He's definitely taken a couple step back, but Jake Elliott also, they had their fair share of struggles this year, but even in the playoffs in previous years, Jake Elliott has come up a bit short or missed some kicks that he doesn't need to. So this one, I would side with Butker as well.
And I think that if you just mentioned Harrison 0-6 beyond 50, 1-8 for Elliott, but if Harrison can make that first one, like the momentum and how he's going to feel about the next one and beyond.
Yep.
would be so much greater than if Elliott makes his first. I think he's still going to go, I got to do it again.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, well, I've got our final tally here. On paper, position versus position breakdown. We have the Kansas City Chiefs with 6 and the Philadelphia Eagles with 8 positional points. On paper, the Philadelphia Eagles are our paper champions so far. Like I said, I'm happy I had you here to bounce these off of, because when I did this, I think I had it 10-4 in Philly's favor, and that would have been fun for the sake of the podcast.
No, but I think too the media has mentioned that the Eagles are more talented position by position.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be some of those X factors. One thing we didn't bring up was the coaching staff. Would you rate Kansas City's coaching staff over?
Yeah, I'd pick Kansas City's.
Yeah. And
I mean, we could even include that in here, throw coaching staff. That's part of the team, but that would be 8-7 Philly then.
Yeah. But yet then if you take coaching, do you want to take Spags versus Kellen Moore? And who's the DC?
No, Spags versus... Oh, so you're going OC-DC?
Yeah.
I would say DC-DC. Vic Fangio.
Yeah. Do you think Andy Reid over Vic Fangio?
No, it'd be Andy versus Nick Sirianni. Head coach.
Well, Andy's calling the plays.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying as a whole, I'd take Kansas City's coaching staff
as a whole. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we'd break it down per coaches there, but all right. Well, a lot closer of a segment than I thought it would be, but that makes for good listening there. We'll move on here. You mentioned X factors. Let's go to that one first. Dad, in terms of offense and defense per side here, I'm not sure if you had this one written down, but if you had to pick one X factor for the Eagles offense, one X factor for the Eagles defense, and the same thing for the Chiefs, who would it be? Let's start on the Eagles side.
Eagles side. One factor?
One X factor for the Eagles offense.
I got to look here. Hold on.
You can say the boring answer.
Well, obviously, run towards the Mike Dennis side, not the
one player, just one player here. Who would be your biggest player X factor?
Well, Saquon.
Okay, see that? Yeah, I figured. I tried to keep it a little different because I figured you'd go Saquon here.
Yeah,
but go ahead with one.
But Saquon has to run to the Mike Dennis side versus the George Kalafis and Chris
Karlaftis.
Yeah, and Chris Jones side, with which probably will have Nick Bolton as well. So you got to run to the other side.
Run to the weak side. That's what you're saying there. Yeah. My biggest X factor for the Eagles offense in this game, like I said, I figured you'd go Saquon. I wanted to keep it a little bit different here. I'm going to go A.J. Brown in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned earlier with Trent McDuffie, I think if we see some sort of man coverage by them, then they're going to look to feed A.J. Brown, or they should look to go and feed A.J. Brown. Trent just doesn't have the size to keep up with A.J. one-on-one, and I feel like he can if they feed A.J. Brown, especially in the end zone there. You keep pointing at your shit. I got you.
If they have that at number 2, yeah.
Yeah, if they feed A.J. Brown, not only in the red zone, but just to try to make some vertical plays down the field and advance their field position, I think this game can get kind of busted wide open. Just make sure that AJ's involved. It didn't seem like he was that involved in the NFC Championship game, or as involved as you'd want your true alpha number 1 receiver. But at the same time, they won that game by 30. They didn't really need to involve him. But he's going to be my biggest X factor for the Eagles offense. Defensively, Dad, who is your biggest X factor for the Eagles?
Defensively for the Eagles. Let me just look through my notes here. Let me get to that. All right. So obviously I already mentioned this, but I'm not going to say is the number one. I'm going to say the edge players, and including your linebackers, have to keep their edge, keep Mahomes in the middle.
Keep that quarterback contained. Yep.
Quarterback
I love that you bring that up. I've got that a little bit in our keys to victory later on. Defensively, mine's a little different. I didn't know who to pick as one guy. So I have just this as a whole. Whoever makes sure that the speedsters and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown do not beat you over the top. Saw this a lot in the NFC Championship game. The Commanders were gifted third down conversions and gifted big plays by allowing Terry McLaurin and even De'Ami Brown at some points to get to the outside and get over that second level of the linebackers and initially that first level of your corners, just so they only had, Reed and CJ Gardner-Johnson back there to make the play after that. The Commanders were able to kind of tear them apart right over the middle with the slants and the short passes and the drag routes. And I think that's going to be the way that they're going to want to funnel this offense to against Kansas City. However, all it takes is one play from a guy like Xavier Hollywood with the speed that they have. So whether it be Darius Slay and Quinyon Mitchell just staying in front of their corners and not letting them get beat behind, whether it comes down to the safeties playing deep enough to not allow one of these big game-breaking plays to happen over the top, whoever is going to make sure that Worthy and Hollywood stay in front of them and stay in their vision throughout the game, that's who my Eagles D X factor would be here.
Yeah.
All right. On to the Chiefs then, Dad. Who do you think is the Chiefs' biggest X factor offensively?
I'm going to say it's Justin Reed.
Offensively.
Oh, I'm sorry. Offensively.
Well, you can start defense. So you say we'll start defense here. Justin Reed, why?
Yeah, because he's got to come up and make those tackles. He's got to tackle Saquon.
Saying they're going to need that run stopping help a lot from their safeties. He's going to get through that first line pretty easily.
Yep.
With the pull of that offensive line in Philly, I think you're definitely going to need to like feed the box, whether it be with your linebackers or with some safety stepping up and helping. It's a good point. My Chiefs defensive X factor. I went the boring route, but I'm going Chris Jones. Like you were mentioning with Saquon having to run in the opposite direction. Chris Jones is very dynamic defensive line player, and if he's going to be able to break through that first initial push against the O-line to get in that backfield a little more and force Saquon to make quick decisions in the backfield rather than attacking his first opening that he sees and going like he did against the Commanders. All it takes with Saquon is one hole, and he's a very, very successful back when it comes to the one cuts and goes. If Chris Jones can get into that backfield and kind of make that first cut or that first hole a little bit harder to find for Saquon, that's going to be their first step in stopping the Eagles' run game. Offensively for the Chiefs now, who's your biggest X factor there?
Hollywood Brown.
Okay, I think we're kind of on the same page. I have mine as Worthy because of the fact what I said about my Eagles' X factor. I think it comes down to one of these two speedy wide receivers, making sure to do their best to beat them over the top, beat the Eagles over the top, and get these big plays. That speed kills, and they are two fast guys on the outside. And being that fast plays just in line with how fast Mahomes usually gets the ball out or wants to get the ball out. If they can break away early in the snap, to have some open field and catch a ball and go, it's going to make the Chiefs offense move a lot more efficiently, I think, in this game.
I think what's going to happen, and yet in us discussing this too, and I wrote this as my top keys to victory for the offense,
We'll go ahead with it
for the
because
Kansas City.
We're gonna go into the keys of victory next.
Yeah.
We'll start with the Chiefs then.
Okay, biggest, and I wrote this down. It's going to be an empty backfield. We're going to run 2 tight ends, empty backfield, but Pacheco is going to have that pass catching abilities that he has. So you just mentioned the speed from Worthy and Brown will have then the corners playing off, not press coverage. I think they're going to have to play off, which if they're playing off but still driving down the field, that's going to open up Kelsey and particularly Pacheco in the middle to catch.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah, that's my number one. That's my first one. Number 2 for me is when and if they get the lead, you got to run Kareem, and he's got to find some holes.
Yeah, definitely have to work that clock and not allow that Eagles offense to get onto the field because, they can also chew up some clock with the way that they're running on the ground.
Yep. And my third key, and 2 guys that we've mentioned, and one already that we picked defensively, outplaying the other safety, Reed Blankenship. He's got to have a game going up against Kelsey. But you have a 6'5", 250 going up against a 6'1", 203.
So is this a key to victory for the Eagles or the Chiefs?
This is a key to victory for the Chiefs. I don't think...
So you're saying Kelsey has to win that matchup against Reed?
Reed, absolutely. Okay. Even though we said Reed is the better safety, free safety, I just think, that's a huge mismatch right there in terms of size.
Yeah. Okay. I have only a couple for the Chiefs. I've got a lot more for the Eagles, so we'll get into this after. But for the Chiefs, as everybody knows, probably the biggest key to victory defensively for them is having to stop Barkley. Whether that be with Chris Jones, whether that be with, like you were saying, some help by the linebackers or some help by the safeties coming up. That's got to be their number one key, and I'm sure that's the number one thing that they're focusing on this week. Barkley averaging 147 rush yards per game so far in this playoffs, 100 plus in 14 out of 19 games so far this year, but the Chiefs haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 18 straight games. Something's got to give. And if the Chiefs want to win this game, that's got to be step one for them, is making sure that Barkley doesn't have a day like he's had all throughout the playoffs so far.
And can I follow up on that? Can I follow
up
on that? Because defensively, I have that as well. But, and I mentioned this to you before we were, yesterday, before we're, just planning this podcast out. And I said it to you and you went, I heard you pause. And you went, well, he doesn't do that. But we've already had, 19 weeks of film that both teams, Philly's seen 19 weeks for Kansas City, 20 weeks of film that Kansas City's seen on the Eagles. You got to do something different, obviously. And wouldn't it be wild to put Chris Jones on a deep defensive end side? Especially, it seems like Saquon, yes, can obviously run up the middle, but most of his long runs have been to
when he gets to the outside.
Yep.
Yeah. It would be interesting if you have something new. I don't think you would line up exclusively on the DN spot, but
no,
maybe you'd switch him out there a couple plays for Kansas City. It's just a matter of who do you then take off of the outside for the Chiefs. I think probably Karlaftis still stays, so it's going to be Karlaftis and Jones on the edge if they do end up moving Chris out there. But at the same time, then you're taking away an interior defensive lineman. It could be a key of who goes in there, who replaces them, and are the Eagles going to attack that rather than going to the outside once they see Chris there? Would it be, all right, well, let's just big body it up front with the O-line and see if we can attack it straight up the middle for Saquon, because he can get in there and do that. He's a big body back. It'd be interesting. It's kind of like, give or take. do you want Chris Jones on the outside to try to give a little more pressure? But what you're going to give up right there in the middle could be too much to overcome for Kansas City defensively. It'll be interesting. And then my last two here for the Chiefs, I've got Mahomes' scrambling ability. Seems like we happen to see it all the time in the Super Bowl, more so in the playoffs. He keeps drives alive and just extends plays. Needs to happen again in prime situations against a tough Philly defense. Like you're saying, with Saquon getting to the outside, the same thing needs to be happening for the Chiefs too, whether that's going to be with the running backs or if that's going to be Mahomes after making his first couple reads, being able to get to the outside himself and extend some third down plays and whatnot there. We see it a lot in the Super Bowl. We saw it a lot last year. I think I saw a stat in every Super Bowl so far that Mahomes has played in. He has at least 45 rushing yards. Even last week, I think he carried it 11 times for 49 yards or something like that. You see it a lot more out of him in the playoffs. Yeah. Something like that. So his scrambling ability's got to be there. Now, is it going to be the number one thing he's got on his mind? No, but rather than forcing plays downfield against a very tough Philadelphia secondary, he's got to make that quick decision to get outside the pocket and move it with his legs, hopefully not put himself in harm's way necessarily, but get outside, extend some plays there, and extend the drives on the feet. Last one I've got for the Chiefs is the special teams. I feel like this isn't talked about enough, but they had some great kick returns and punt returns that set them up with great field position in the AFC Championship game. Most notably that kickoff that went 45, 50 yards or something like that. Going to be hoping for that again to get them set up for good field position. Now, I'm not sure how well it'll happen. These great special team plays only happen every so often and give yourself that great position. But if you can get up there in the field and have a short field to work with so that, you can get the run game going to set up the pass game later on into the drives, I think that's going to be a big step for the Chiefs in terms of starting out their drives the right way.
Hey, going off script. So we both have two quarterbacks, and obviously I have this later on in a key to victory. For the Eagles, that Jalen Hurts needs to stay healthy. And obviously Patrick needs to stay healthy. Both like to run if needed. Who, though, would you take next if something happened to both? Do you take Kenny Pickett over Carson Wentz?
Honestly, I'd hope we would just pause the Super Bowl and then pick it back up once the two are healthy. I don't think anybody in America, as shitty as this game is, I don't think anybody in America wants to see a Kenny Pickett versus Carson Wentz Super Bowl. If I had to pick, though, in terms of the quarterback, I'm probably taking Carson Wentz, but based off of how these guys' offenses move and how they fit in their systems, I would take Kenny Pickett and the Eagles just because they'd rely more on Saquon. And I think Kenny Pickett's shit, but he can still hand the ball off. Carson Wentz getting thrown into the Super Bowl.
Revenge game,
yes, but getting thrown into the Super Bowl off an injury of Mahomes potentially, and then having to make your quick reads against a defense that is this good and would be just absolutely feasting off of him then. Picking off some lanes and stuff like that. I just don't think it would work too well. Hopefully we don't see any injuries. We're not wishing on any injuries for any player. We don't do that here. But that's an interesting one. Hopefully we don't see it. That would make this terrible game even worse. All right, Dad, let's move on to some keys to victory for the Eagles. Go ahead with your three. Hopefully they cross off some of mine because I swear to God I have about 7 here.
Well, I put keys to victory both offensively and defensively, but I guess I've already mentioned Eagles D-wise, the two J's in the middle. I said already, I think the edge needs to contain Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
So my other third Eagles defensive key to victory is that this game can't be too big for these young cornerbacks. Or is it too big?
Okay. I like it.
I mean, we already mentioned that the Eagles have the better safety pairings. But yet, I already said Reed has got to worry about Travis. So, I mean, is it too big for Williams and Cooper DeJean? I mean, this is the Super Bowl, man.
20 on Mitchell, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mitchell.
Okay.
This is a big game.
Yeah. Is the moment too big?
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to tell up until kickoff on Sunday, but that's a great point. Is that so? You've gone through all of yours then?
No.
Oh,
no.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Well, yeah, I guess I did. Because the other one was Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert need to stay healthy.
Okay.
I mentioned Dallas Goedert. Already said this earlier. His longest reception downfield for the Eagles was 61 yards, second only to AJ Brown's 67-yard reception. That's only 6 more for all those that are doing math. Dallas went 42 receptions for 496 yards and 2 touchdowns, while the backup went 24, 298 and 1. I mean, yes, half the production, but I don't think Grant is the same as if Noah Gray. I think Noah Gray's a better second tight end to Gray.
Okay. Very valid. I'm going to speed through these here so we have some time to get to the rest of this stuff. So first one, obviously this doesn't need much introduction. The keys to victory for the Eagles, Saquon Barkley. We'll just keep it there. Got to have his game. We already went into this earlier about how that has to happen. Second one, can the O-line handle some weird pressure from the Chiefs? This might go hand in hand with your Chris Jones call here. The Eagles O-line has to show that they're the better O-line in this game. They have to win in the trenches. If they're getting beat early, it's going to be a long game for the Philadelphia offense. So that's very big for them. These next couple go hand in hand.
Let me jump on that too.
Go ahead.
I think Leo Chenal.
Yep.
I mean, he's one positional player we haven't talked about who had a great year and decent size, 6'3", 250.
Yep.
So talking about weird pressures, I mean, you could see him coming off the ball.
Yep. No, that's a great point.
Stunning.
All right, my next two kind of go hand in hand. I mentioned this with the X factor for the Chiefs, but Eagles defense has to limit KC from hitting big plays over the top. They cannot get beat deep here. We kind of talked about this even in the college football national championship game that we did, and how Notre Dame was going to be able to play, two deep safety coverage to allow Ohio State not to beat them over the top. Now, that didn't work out so well for them. They got beat over the top multiple times. But Philadelphia has to stay in front of these speedy receivers. But at the same time, they have to focus on not allowing Mahomes to tear them up over the middle like Washington did in the NFC Championship game. Too many of those drives for Washington were advanced because of the fact that Jaden was finding stuff over the middle, on a 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 8, and Terry McLaurin goes for 20 yards because the middle of the field was just open too long because of how much they were trying to stay in front of the Washington receivers and everything deep downfield. So between the two of those, you have to find an equal balance. You can't fully commit to keeping them deep because Mahomes is going to pick you apart right across the middle there on the short passes. But you also can't stay that much in front of them because all it takes is one play for Worthy or Hollywood to get past you on the deep line, and then you're looking at a game-breaking play that could happen and flip this script all the way around. My last two, I mentioned this earlier with A.J. Brown and being my X factor. You got to feed A.J. Brown whenever you see McDuffie on him. He doesn't have the size. And A.J. can beat him up one-on-one. So you got to feed him anytime you see that matchup coming. And, I've got two more, actually. Avoid unnecessary penalties. We know how this – we know what happens when you put the game in the ref's hands with Kansas City on that field. So you got to avoid unnecessary penalties and unnecessary yards that go in Kansas City's favor. And the last one would be beating the blitz. I've got a little thing here. All quarterbacks are worse when pressured than when clean, and Hurts is no exception. However, the split between a clean pocket for Hurts and a pressured play is as large of a gap as it is for any quarterback in the NFL. Chiefs rank 13th in blitz rate, but defensive coordinator Steve Spag's ability to scheme unblocked blitzers has been the best in the NFL by far since he was hired in 2019. Hurts' mobility allows him to buy time and break a tackle occasionally, but he's more of a power runner than an elusive type who avoids sacks. His time to throw when pressured was the third highest despite his yards per attempt dropping from 9.3 to 4.9, and his turnover-worthy throw rate plummeting from 1.8% to 5.3% under pressure. Hurts is just a bad quarterback under pressure, so you got to make sure to get that ball out quick and beat the blitz if you're Philadelphia on offense.
That's great. I mean, because size alone. Don't want to beat up on the short quarterbacks, but is he listed at 6'1", but he probably plays more at 5'11" to 6 feet.
I think he's that small, but I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know. All right, here, Deb. Very quickly, because I've got a fun little thing at the end here. But we've gone through this. We broke it down position by position. We broke down keys to victory for both teams. Now, at the end of the day, comes the big one. Give me your score prediction for the Super Bowl on Sunday, and give me your Super Bowl MVP.
Well, I'm going to say it's Kansas City 24-21.
So you have Kansas City.
I'll say that they're going to make this three-peat. They'll pull it out, and your MVP is going to be Isaiah Pacheco.
Interesting.
And I'm going to
say
because of just the point that you made too. His ability to pass catch has to show up greater in the middle, and he'll be able to do it
and be that dump off option. Yep. Gotcha. Well, it seems like for the second time this year in terms of championship games on this podcast, we are going to be on differing sides. I've got the Eagles 27-17. I was thinking originally 31-21, but I think that's just a little bit too much points in a game where both these defenses are going to shine. But ultimately, I do think it turns out to be a 10-point game. It's not going to be a blowout or anything. We'll see this at the end or something with some garbage time touchdown. It's going to be a close game throughout. But I've got the Eagles 27-17 over the Chiefs, and the Super Bowl MVP will be Saquon Barkley. I just don't see the Chiefs being able to slow him down. Like we've mentioned, they have to as a key to victory in this game. All right, Dad. Last thing here. We're going to go through some props, but don't really have the time. But I've got some fun props for you here. Thanks to covers.com, we got a party prop betting sheet. Everybody loves the fun props and the fun bets that come with the Super Bowl. So I've got 19 here, and we're going to run through these very quickly. You ready?
All right.
Length of the national anthem in seconds. Over under 120 and a half.
120 and a half. Who's singing?
I have no idea. Let me see. National anthem, Super Bowl.
I'm really upset that we're running up against the clock because I had breakdown, rush, and pass per down and per quarter as well.
John Batiste. I don't know who this guy is, but the anthem has gone over its total in 4 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, and he sounds like an opera type of dude. I'm going over.
Yeah, I'll probably go over here too. It's always a fun sweat, always at the start of the game to go over. You can't bet the under on the national anthem. Will the coin toss be heads or tails?
It's going to be heads.
It will be heads. I agree with you there. First offensive play, a run or a pass attempt?
The Chiefs, who are they the visiting team in this?
No, but they're wearing the white.
Okay. So Philly.
I'm pretty sure because they're the 1 seed and Philly's the 2.
Okay.
So technically Philly should be the visiting team.
All right. So Philly will be dumb and they'll call it tails. They'll be heads. Chiefs will win. They'll defer. Philly will start with it and they're going to run.
I think regardless of who gets the ball, it's going to be a run. I think you don't give up the opportunity to potentially throw a pick on the first play. It's going to be a run, whoever gets the ball first. Which team's going to score first, the Chiefs or the Eagles?
Eagles.
Yep, Eagles. I think even if the Chiefs get the ball first, I think their defense stops them. Even if it's a field goal, I think we see the Eagles get on the board first. First turnover of the game will be a fumble, interception, turnover on downs, or a missed field goal.
Oh God, that'll probably be easy. Missed field goal.
That might be easy. I'm gonna go fumble. I don't know, something's just calling to me there, but I think a fumble. We see that peanut punch out of Zach Bond potentially, like we saw, I think 2 or 3 times in the NFC Championship game. Which team will commit the first accepted penalty of the game?
Kansas City.
Really? I'm going to go the Eagles. You don't think that they're going to get called first with Kansas City on this field?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. The Eagles will be called first.
Yeah. Which team will get to 10 points first? Chiefs, Eagles, or neither?
I'll say Kansas City.
Yeah, contrary to what I said with the Eagles scoring first, I think the Chiefs probably get the 10 first, whether it's 10-7 or 10-3.
10-7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say 10-7.
Will either team score during the last 2 minutes of the first half? Yes or no?
No.
I'm going to say yes. We get a good 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Kendrick Lamar, but which song will be performed first at the halftime show? Not Like Us, which won 5 fucking Grammys last night. Euphoria, Squabble Up, King Kunta, or DNA?
I just kind of like the word euphoria.
Okay. I'm choosing not to answer this question because I'm a Drake fan, so fuck Kendrick. How many songs will be played during the halftime show? Over under 10.5?
Under.
Yeah, I'll
just
go under
barely.
Too. Barely, it'll hit 10. Total number of players to attempt a pass, over under 2.5. That's in the game total.
Yeah. Under.
I'll go over. Fuck it. Let's have some fun. Who would it be? I don't know. Maybe Xavier Worthy on an end around or something like that. I'm not sure. Or maybe we see some sort of fake punt. But I'll go over. Who will have more passing yards? Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Patrick
Mahomes. Who will have more rushing yards? Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, or other?
Saquon.
Yeah, Saquon. Who's going to have the most receiving yards? A.J. Brown, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Devontae Smith, or other?
Travis.
I'm going to go A.J. Brown. Goes hand in hand with my X factor on offense. What color will the liquid poured on the winning head coach be? Gatorade, that is, of course, lime, green, yellow, clear or water. They've got red/pink, blue, orange, or purple. Little tidbit of information here. Every time the Chiefs have won recently, it has been purple. Purple has the highest or the lowest odds, that is, to be the Gatorade color again at like plus 175 last time I saw it. I don't know if that's just their favorite Gatorade or something, but
I'm going to say it's going to be that white.
The like glacier cherry.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really fucking good Gatorade. I love that Gatorade. I don't think the Chiefs win it, so I'm not going to say purple. I don't know really what the I don't know what the Eagles be drinking. But I'm gonna go with the lime, green, or yellow maybe they're sticking to their colors there because I think they ultimately win it. Will either team score during the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I believe that as well. Who will win the game? We already went over that one. Will the combined total points be over or under 49.5?
Under.
Yep, I think we're both on under with our score predictions. And the MVP winner, Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, or any other player. You have any other player. I have Saquon Barkley. And that is all of the party prop betting sheet that I have here for some fun props instead of some player props. That was good. I think that's a fun way to end it here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to find a way to put out my little stats on my Twitter.
Man, do it. Go tweet it all out. Tweet out a stat every week or every day this week. Hashtag Super Bowl in there. See if you can get some good impressions for you.
Yeah, I think I'll try that. You might have to teach me how to do that.
Sure. All right, Dad, you got anything else?
I just look for that repost button that you put.
Yeah. Oh, I see. You got anything else on the Super Bowl before we get on out of here?
No. I think, the talk, unfortunately for us New England Patriot fans, is going to be them, Kansas City now being the next dynasty. And at least, in your lifetime, you've seen a couple dynasties occur in football then.
Yeah, well, you think that's going to happen for the sake of my sanity. It's why I'll be rooting for Philly. Sucks to say, but that's why I'll be rooting for Philly on Sunday. I cannot go through a whole offseason of the first thing on First Take on Monday morning being, is Mahomes now the GOAT over Brady? I can't hear that for the next 7 months. So that's why I'll be rooting for the Birds. Hope that they kill the chances of a three-peat here, but ultimately I hope we got a good game. A close one, kind of like we did the first time we saw them.
Excuse me, I think it will be a good game.
Awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening to this Super Bowl episode of A New Era podcast. As always, if you'd like to keep up with us on social media outside of the podcast episodes, go ahead and follow us there on Instagram at A New Era Podcast, on Twitter at A New Era Podcast, A New Era Podcast on Facebook. And if you'd like to email us any questions, concerns, or funny business, A New Era Podcast at gmail.com. We appreciate you guys listening here to episode 57 of A New Era Podcast, and we will catch you guys next week with a hopefully new Super Bowl champion up in the rafters.
Love you, son.
Love you, Dad.